Welcome to the Dental Journeys podcast, proudly sponsored by Whitecoat Financial. Join us as we explore the journeys, strategies, and successes of dental professionals across Canada. Whether you're a brand new grad or a seasoned dentist, our episodes aim to provide advice and insights for your journey in the dynamic world of dentistry. On today's episode, we're joined by Dr. Nekky Jamal. Dr. Jamal is a general dentist and a clinic owner based out of Lloydminster, Alberta. Now, you may have seen Dr. Jamal performing live procedures at PDC, or maybe you've taken his course, Third Molars Online, or maybe you've even listened to his podcast, Hi, I'm Doctor. But if for some strange reason you haven't heard of Dr. Jamal, you're about to learn more about his background, his current practice, and his advice to his fellow dentists on today's episode. And on that note, if you haven't taken his course or watched him live or listened to his podcast, I definitely recommend checking out all of it because he's not only a fantastic clinician, he's probably one of the most likable guys in dentistry. So without further ado, let's dive into episode 7 of the Dental Journeys podcast. What got you into dentistry? Because you've talked about it before where, and correct me if I'm remembering anything wrong here, but you wanted to be a dentist really because of some of the insecurities you had around your smile and your teeth. And you saw your dentist. You're like,
totally,
I can do that myself.
I think we all, I think everyone's had the exact same story of why you went into dentistry. I got braces and it changed my life, and now I needed to repay it. Like it's no typical story. The cool part about that story was, we didn't have any money growing up, and my dad, I had a gap so wide between my teeth you could drive a truck through it. And it was like, man, imagine this pudgy kid. Man, I was fat when I was a kid, man. I couldn't stop eating. And so I was a fat kid, and my teeth were big as I am right now. Like, they fit in my face. I was only like, 4'7" then. And, I just looked so horrible. And my dad, he took out a loan, and when we didn't have anything, and he got me straight teeth. And it was like the second that happened, like I was standing like 2 inches taller. Man, it's dentistry thing. Everyone thinks dentistry is about making smiles. Everyone's talking about cosmetics and all this crap on Instagram. And I'm like, that's great. But dentistry is not about that. Dentistry is about confidence. It's the ability to provide confidence. And man, you walk around with no front teeth, man, you got no confidence, right? So dentistry is about confidence. It's not about, it's just, how you get there. So no, I was lucky enough that my dad did that for me.
And then how much of that decision, if you don't mind talking about it, was financially motivated? Or was there any decision of like, okay, if I go to dental school, I'll obviously have solid income, I could take care of dad, I could make a good future for myself? Or was that not even, in your scope of thought when you were deciding?
No, money was never part of my reason of going into dentistry. I had no idea what dentists make. Like I was never, I should have been a forward thinker, and I guess I lucked out, but I had no idea how much a dentist make, like zero, until I graduated. And that's when I first started looking into it.
That's crazy. You know how you were saying that, like, every dentist, they had the same story about the braces and stuff? I'll tell you for sure, every dentist I've ever spoke to knew exactly how much dentists make before they started.
So really?
I gotta, hats off to you, because that sounds like you truly wanted to be a dentist.
How would you know that, though? I had zero inkling. Like when I was a kid, my goal was to make 50 grand a year. That was my goal. And it was like, man, I could live a sweet life, 50K a year. And, I don't live too far off that right now. Like I pull out less than 100K a year from my Prof Corp, and I live a great life, man. Like, I don't know. I'm not a fancy dude. I just got an Apple Watch. It's pretty sweet.
Ooh.
Yeah. So that's like my big purchase of the year. I wear a $4 black t-shirt every day. I don't give a shit, man.
Where'd you get the deal from on the t-shirt?
Man, you buy like 20 online. It's dope.
Love it. Nekky, you just touched on that right now. Actually, you're not much of a forward thinker. When I talk to you, like, we've seen each other a few times. When I talk to you, you do kind of invest in all that and whatnot. So you didn't plan, much about dentistry other than kind of getting in and working from there on. Do you plan much for the future in terms of, your practice, your goals, your financials, because it seems like
how deep you want to get into this, man? Because I've made my fair share of mistakes, man. I've made more mistakes than everyone listening to this pod times 10, and I still live to tell the day, man. It's funny because like my dad, like we said, we never really had anything, but he was always like, when I was a kid, he was like, Nekky, you got to think big. Like, is this the life you want to have for yourself? And like, we had nothing, man. Like I remember, in grade 9, we finally had enough money to rent an apartment, and man, it's cool. That's where I got my grind from, for sure. It was like, no one's going to give anything to you for free, Nekky. You know, I don't have, like, my dad doesn't have money for me. There's no golden spoon. I was never the smartest kid. Like, you know, you got to work for those scholarships. You got to work. Man, I was working at Pizza Hut, starting in grade 9. I opened up my own RESP. Like, I started everything. I knew you could max out at what, 22 grand, you get $400 from the government. Yeah, man, that was my goal. That was my goal. Grade 9 goal. You want to talk about goals? Grade 9. I'm going to get $400 from the government. So I did that grade 9, 10, 11, 12, paid for my first 2 years of university just from Pizza Hut. And then, you know, I was working still. So I was able to put myself through school, through undergrad. And I guess that's where the hustle came from, is knowing that there was no free lunch out there for me. And yeah, anyways, so my dad was like, you know, Nekky, you got to think big. And I'm like, yeah, what does thinking big mean? He's like, you got to own property. I'm like, yeah, that's smart. So, you know, when I first graduated dental school, you know, we had to buy a practice. And, you know, to take a couple $1 million loan when the most amount of loan you had was like your dental school loan for $150K, like that was a hard one to swallow, but, you know, did that. And then I got into these, I went to a financial advisor, and he was like, Nekky, do you want to make like $5 grand for next weekend? And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, we can invest it in CNRL, which is, you know, Canadian Natural Resources. It just had a little dip. This is 2015. And, that little dip went down 80%. And so I lost a couple, well, maybe about 100 grand, 150 grand, through all like bad financial advisors. And, I lost trust pretty quick, cause I'm like, man, can we swear?
Yeah, by all means.
Yeah. All you fuckers just want my money. Right. And so I was so pissed. I see that guy walking around my town today. I'm like, man, I feel sorry for you, because you screw people over, man. And that was at a reputable bank too. So, you know, that was crap. But then, you know, I got over that, and I'm like, yeah, I got to buy property. So I did, like, you know, what people around me were doing. Like, man, Ricky's out in Ontario. He's probably got 7 condos and all over Ontario. You know what I mean? And he's doing well. I see my buddies in Vancouver tripling their money, Calgary, Edmonton, same thing. So I do the same. I bought 5 condos, and I'm doing good for the first year. And then oil crashes. And to this day, if I try to sell those condos, like 10 years later, I'm losing about $400 to $500 grand. And so you're like, man, look at all these geniuses in Ontario and BC. They're really the smartest people I know. And then they're like, no, it's just where they live, man. They're no different than you. And that was a really hard pill for me to swallow. Like that, like, even to this day, I just saw a counselor, or like I go for therapy. And I was talking to her. I'm like, dude, that L was like, that was hard for me to swallow, and it's still hard for me to swallow, man. You never remember the W's, you only remember the L's, right? So that was a big one. And then I'm just rambling here. Sorry, guys.
No,
I got to give you the best advice she ever told me, man. This was gold. This was money in the bank right here. She was like, and I'm going on about all my losses. I got way more losses than this too. I opened up a restaurant too, by the way. That one failed as well. Anyways, it's not from lack of trying. I'm having fun, right? Anyways, she's like, you know, Nekky, and she's so like stoic and quiet, and she's listening to me, and I'm super high energy, and she's the complete opposite. She's like, you know, Nekky, I want you tomorrow morning. I want you to wake up at 5:30 in the morning. She's going on building the scene. She's like, I want you to like take a picture of all 5 of those condos. I want you to take a picture of that financial advisor. I want you to take a picture of that restaurant, and I want you to frame it. And I'm like, what the fuck is this lady getting into? Like, what is she going? I want you to frame it. And I want you, this is your new shrine. And I'm like, you want me to shrine my losses? And she's just like, I want you to shrine your losses, because those losses are the biggest lessons you'll ever have in your entire life. And I never thought about it that way. And it was like the mindset switch in my head. I'm like, oh, so you mean like when I see all my other homies killing it, like, look at Ricky, man. He's got a beautiful wife. He's like his practice, his investment portfolio, he's doing amazing, right? Now look at all my L's, right? And I'm like, man, I really, that wasn't, you know, that was tough for me. And she was like, yeah, but those lessons you paid for every one of them. And when you're older, you're not going to make those mistakes. And I'm like, man, that was the best advice ever, because, 35, like between 30 and 35, I made all those mistakes. But imagine if I made those mistakes with a lot more money from like 50 to 55. You know what I mean? Because like, I would have been pretty arrogant thinking that I'm the genius that invested in Toronto real estate, when really, man, you didn't have to be a genius. It was just timing, right? And so it was good lessons for me to have. And I'm so open about it, because no one ever, you know what? I asked so many people, tell me about your biggest loss. And they'll be like, yeah, I lost 10 grand once. And I'm like, man, I've lost millions, man. And so I'm proud of it. I was embarrassed, but I'm proud to share it, because, man, we're all going to have losses. And if I'm the only one, bold enough to share my losses, well, hopefully I can prevent the next person from making theirs.
Yeah, that's what I like about you, man. I still remember we were chatting at the Brazilian steakhouse that one time,
Yeah.
and you gave me like an absolute pearl. You were like, we were talking about the development company and if I had invested in it, because a bunch of our friends had, and I'm like, yeah, kind of, but I wish I kind of hadn't. You're like, honestly, you're good at one thing, and that's dentistry. Just keep your focus on that. And ever since then, I've listened to your pearls, man. It's so true. If you do have a little bit of extra money that you want to spend and splurge on, and you don't mind losing, then go ahead. But I think we do really got to focus on what we're good at, and luckily dentistry pays well. Um, so there's not really any need to kind of go outside of dentistry.
It's
So I
so true,
appreciate.
man. Cause like, man, I've always wanted to. I'm like, man, I need side hustles. I need to do, like, man, I'm gonna get in a restaurant. Boom, 200 grand loss. Oh man, my buddy's opening up a weed company. I'm gonna get in ground floor. Boom, 150 grand gone. Bad investments. Boom, 150 grand. Condos. Bam, 500 grand. And you add all these up, and you're like, damn. But I did do the shrine thing, and it was a cathartic experience for me. And if anyone's listening and they've racked up some losses, you're not alone. You're not alone. And remember what you're good at, and that's occlusals, and that
Yeah.
shit pays the bills, man.
OBs.
I don't even
OBs.
I don't even know
Yeah,
where to.
if you're in Ontario, like Ricky, it's OBL, man.
Yeah. That's sad. That's a sad state. I know it's a sad state.
Yeah, that's Ontario, man.
I don't even know where to
Not you,
take it
Ricky. Not
after
you.
all that, man. Like, I'll say this on multiple fronts. Nekky, it's so important you share your losses, because obviously in dentistry, Instagram, social media across the board, but I feel like dentistry is worse than others. You only see like the perfect, even like my whole Insta feed is literally perfect teeth after perfect teeth. There'll be the rare, where it says like the warning, and it'll be someone's face completely open. There'll be oral surgeons, and everyone else after that, it's like perfect teeth. And it's funny because when clients come to see me, they can't ask their friends, like, how much do you guys make? Where should I be at financially at this age or whatever? They have to ask me, because no one else shares it. It's like I'm the only one who sees behind the scenes of what's really going on. And I can promise you, Nekky, there's people who've had way worse losses out there, who've done way crazier
Oh,
things,
thanks. Honestly, dude, I've yet to find one.
because they're not going to tell
You
you.
gotta
Because
you gotta wake them up. Wake them up.
exactly, but well, like, why not? It pisses me off so much.
Yeah.
Even I'm on the plane, man. I'm on the plane, and I'm sitting in business class or whatever. I got upgraded. I'm living the high life. They gave me a free beer. I'm like, oh man, life is good. I'm talking to the guy beside me, and he's just some rich, like, whatever. And even then, I'm like, man, help me out, because I never tell people, what I like, if I'm doing well or not. I'm like, man, I have a hard time with losses. Tell me your biggest loss. And he was like, oh yeah, like, one time a deal didn't go through and I lost out on like 50 grand. I'm like, you're going to sit here and tell me that your entire life you've done nothing but win? And he's just like, yeah, man, I just make smart choices. I'm like, okay.
Like with
And
Jordan.
it's so frustrating that people aren't sharing their shit, because you can make so many more connections by being real. I have nothing to hide. If anything, I want you to learn from my stupidity, so Ricky doesn't make it. And I hope, Ricky, you don't make the same dumbass mistakes that I did, and you are doing well. And I want to see you kill it, man. Like, nothing would make me happier than the people around me, the people, my crew. Okay, even if, Ricky, I see you twice a year, you're still part of my fam, man.
I
And if I
appreciate
see
that.
you kill it, nothing makes me happier, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And it's vice versa as well. Vice versa as well. And then listening to your podcast with Akil, by the way, great podcast. Everyone should check it out. Hi, I'm Doctor is what it's called. Correct?
Thanks, man.
Correct. Okay, nice. Um, yeah, I guess we're talking about all the loss and stuff, but you've done also so much in your life, and I think you should be so proud of that.
Yeah, thanks,
You're a
man.
great clinician, great clinician, great business owner. You lecture, you've got a podcast, you give back a ton, which is awesome. We'll touch on that as well after. Um, I think most people know you as the guy that takes out wisdom teeth, teaches a lot of courses. We don't know much about you in terms of your clinic and your business and stuff, and I think it's really we kind of overshadow that a lot because I think you've built an absolute monster of a business and clinic that you're able to kind of take care of a lot of patients in your city as well. We should definitely touch on that. I don't know if you want to give us kind of let's go backwards. When you graduated dental school,
Sure.
did you associate? Did you jump into ownership? How did that go?
Yeah, so in 2009, I graduated from the University of Saskatchewan. Great school. I loved it. We just actually had our 15-year reunion at PDC, so that was kind of awesome.
Ooh,
But yeah, so man, January 4th, 2010, practice changes hands. It was, I think 12 ops, maybe 8 ops. I forgot, man. Like my memory's crap. Anyways, 8 or
were you
12 ops.
associating there, or
What was
at
that?
the were you associating there at that point?
Yeah, I was associating there for 6 months prior. And the owner was like, I want out, and gave me a hefty payment. And so, I went to the bank, and I was able to get I didn't know anything, man. Like I didn't know anything. Like I didn't know you can go shop between banks. And my first loan was only a portion of the full practice price. The bank wouldn't give it to me. I had a $14,000 loan signing fee that I had to pay, which I didn't know was crazy. It's just like all this shit happens to me. I don't know why. It's because I'm an idiot, right?
No.
Anyway, so 14 grand, and it was for a portion of the loan at prime plus two. And I was like, whoa, that's wild. This is 2010, January 4th. I'm walking in, first day back from Christmas holidays. I turn the door and I take my first step in my brand new office into a puddle. And I was like, what the fuck is going on, right? Take one more step, go open it, and my entire office is flooded. Entire office is flooded. The old owner, we had to install these, like, those dishwashers, those Statums, not Statums, Hydrums. That was like back in when Hydrums first got introduced, and he wanted to install it himself to save $100 plumbing fee because he knew like that was part of the deal. He had to install, like, get our stereo up to like perfect par, and he had to like have the Hydrum ready to go, and he installed it himself and didn't put the proper hosing on, and it just burst. And like, you want to talk about deflation, man. Like I walked in and I'm literally crying to see, a multi-million-dollar loan payment, going through every month. We're closed. All my equipment is now trash. The floor is garbage. There's people cutting holes in walls. So like, you don't get mold. It's like, what do you do with all this water? Shop vacs everywhere. But it was like, thousands of square foot worth of damage. And, that was hard to walk into the first day, but it was like, okay, now this happened. Now we got to work even harder. And that was crazy. So whatever, we got through that, worked out. You get new equipment, right? You add on to the loan payment, life happens. But it gets bigger. And then 2013, we took over the lease next door of a pet store. So we made our office. We were at 18 ops then. And then now during COVID, we took over a portion of the travel agent next door, and now we have 22 ops. And it's fun, man. We got a staff of 40, and we have a lot of fun. Like, we do all types of dentistry. There's 6 dentists there right now, and hygiene, and I'm just so blessed, man. I have the best office manager, Patricia. I know you're probably not listening, but I love you. I love you. You do a lot of. I'm nowhere without you. I have amazing partners. We added, so in 2010, it was myself and Dr. Eliasson. We bought the practice together. And then 2015, one of our associates, he's just my homie, man. And I didn't want to work without him. And if you ever have that dentist you don't want to work without, it's not a money game anymore. I know I could have, my valuation was probably 10 times more than I gave it to him for. But like, man, I've never fought with the guy in the last 9 years. He's my brother. Like I can rely on him, and I don't give a shit that I left millions on the table to sell, a portion of the clinic to him. And I'm proud to have 2 other partners. So, man, life's good.
I love that. That's awesome. You rarely hear that ever. Unfortunately, there's a bad rap about dentists that they, a lot of them just want to keep to themselves. You rarely ever see people want to spread the wealth.
Totally.
How has partnering been? Because, people will always advise you against that.
Partnering has been amazing for me. I have nothing like Eric, our newest partner that we had, like nothing short of amazing. Like I said, I've never had an argument with him. It's pretty awesome. Like to me, the only question was, do you want to work without him? That was my only question. And I was like, no. Okay. So make it happen. And, we have different things. Like I'm in charge of paying the bills, and like, my 2 other partners, they implicitly trust me, I think to a fault. Like, man, I could run away with everything and no one would even know. And so, there's a lot of trust that goes all 3 ways. And Eric's in charge of fixing all the stuff, and Reagan, she's in charge of like, HR and all that stuff. And so, we all have our little departments. We trust each other way too much. And yeah, you're right. If you're in with the wrong partner, like, if someone else was in charge of the money to the same control I'm in charge of the money in our practice, like it would definitely be a no-no. Like all our accountants all the time are like, you need to have checks and balances. And they're both like, man, I don't give a shit. And I just let Nekky do it. And so, we just have an amazing group, and I couldn't be happier or more blessed.
I wanted to just track back, because one of the questions I wanted to ask was, I remember when you told me that, like not told me, but on the podcast of yours and Akil's, where you were talking about when you open the door and there's water all over the floor and you have millions of dollars of loans. What I wanted to like focus on, there was the exact moment in there. When you saw that, who'd you call next? Like, was that your partner? Do you call the bank? Do you call your insurance guy? Do you call the guy who sold it to you and be like, where do you live? I'm going to kill you. Like, who did you call next?
The restoration company. Yeah, no, no. What do you do? Like, what do you do? Your first call is to the restoration company to be like, man, get this water out of my office. Then the next one's to CDSBI. And you're like, man, I don't know. But they even said, if there's a portion of your clinic that is still workable, you have to work out of that side. Like you can't just collect money off. Like you can't just say, well, my doors are closed for 8 months. Like half your office is underwater and the other half isn't. So work out of the other half. So yeah, no, we were forced to get going, and we were back up and running in 2 days. Like we had holes in the wall and a lot of damaged equipment, but we were able to make a go of it. And we ordered a lot of new equipment that day, and it taught me a lot, because it's not something that you ever expect. And looking back, man, Akil and I talk about this shit all the time, and we're always saying, he's always saying, he's like, Nekky, you've made it, blah blah blah, and I'm like, man, I don't care. Like I don't even know what that means. But he's like, dude, what was the best part? What was the best part? And I'm like, dude, it's the journey, it's the hustle, it's the stories. It's the cool shit you do every year. That's what you remember, right? It's like knowing I'm able to get to where I am now with a flood on the very first day, with those interest payments due, with more interest than principal, and fighting through it and getting ripped off on the loan, losing all this money along the way, and just looking back where I am, and I'm so happy right now, man. Like I'm just so happy. And it's not a financial thing that makes you happy. Money will never make you happy. If you think money's going to make you happy, man, you'll never have enough and you will always be miserable. So find something else. And no, man, I'm so grateful for everything in my life, man.
With appreciating the journey, I'm gonna assume you weren't always at this headspace with it, because you've talked about in the past where you were just grinding, working really hard.
I've struggled.
But if you were to look back to Nekky right now when he was at Pizza Hut, teenager, would you tell him to slow down at all, or no? Because
no, man. I would say, man, you gotta hustle, you gotta grind. There's no, man. David Goggins says it best, man. There's no shortcuts for you, Goggins. There's no shortcuts for you, Nekky. Nothing in life was handed to me, man. I had to work for every single freaking thing. And of course, there's luck along the way, like, choosing the right practice, going to the right location, getting that acceptance letter into dentistry, going to U of S instead of UBC or U of A, right? Everything lines up. But I had those opportunities that, and I tried to capitalize on all of them. And I said yes to everything. And that, got me into a lot of trouble. But it also gave me the career I have now. And no, man, I constantly believe the only way out is to work. And so I feel like, Ricky, he's a smart dude. All the people around me in dentistry, man, they're smart. It's harder to get into dentistry than it is to medicine. What differentiates me? Not my brains. I'm not good at memorizing. I'm not good at applying, but I can work. And so, I tried to work as hard as the next person. And even still, I'm 40 years old. I don't have to grind anymore, but I'm still up at 1 a.m. reading journal articles. I'm still up on weekends working on lectures. I want to be the best educator out there, but also not devalue what I'm doing to myself, right? And so I grind, man, and I love every second of it.
You've talked about competition a lot. And I'm asking this question selfishly, not even for the listeners right now.
Competition in what way?
Well, you've talked about it in the sense that you shouldn't be focused on competition, that you should be focused on yourself and your journey. But
absolutely,
there was this dichotomy between, all right, you want to strive to be the best at something, because why do it otherwise, right? But then that inevitably is going to come up with competition, that you're trying to get better. At what point do you draw the line when you're like, all right, being competitive is no longer productive? And how do you actually draw that line?
It's competitive with yourself, man. It's competitive with yourself. I love Ricky to death, but his day-to-day doesn't affect me, man. I love everyone around me. Man, if you're in dentistry, I know you hustle. I know you're smart. I know you grind, but your day-to-day doesn't affect me. It's competition with me, man. It's competition with me. It's me versus me. And that's always been me, man, because I can't focus on other people. If I focus on other people, I'm in the dumps. I used to, when I first graduated, I would see my buddies and they would be like, man, I'm buying another practice. I'm like, what? How do you run 2 practices? That's crazy. And I'm always looking on the grass on the other side. Why? How did they fertilize theirs? How did they afford that car? They're going to Hawaii again. Look at their house. How do they do that shit? And even now I'll catch myself. And the prime example is one of the guys I have the most respect for in the game. And that's Hisham Shurgan. I love him, man. London, Ontario. He's taught me a lot. He's taught me so much. And I looked at him and I'm like, man, he has 30 practices and I have 1. How do you even get to that point? And you put these guys on a pedestal, and you can't let your mind space devalue who you are just because someone else is doing that. And he's probably looking at me saying like, oh man, he's got 1 practice, but he's happy. You know what I mean? Like he's been able to grow at large. It goes both ways, but I have so much respect for everyone around me, and I can only focus on me because that's all I can control.
I like that. I think from knowing you for a little bit, I think your mindset has definitely changed, because I remember you talking about, comparing yourself. You're like, oh, look at Hisham. He's got 20, 30 practices. Look at this guy. He's got 10 practices. And I've got the 1. And then other people look at you. This guy's lecturing, he's going all over the place lecturing. He's got his own online education. He's got an unreal practice. I think it's, that's kind of what our podcast is kind of centered around, is that there's so many different journeys in dentistry. Everyone's got their own journey. It's good to look at other people. I don't think it's a bad thing, because you want to sometimes emulate or kind of follow similar footsteps to people that you kind of look up to, but you can't compare yourself to everyone, because it's just not possible.
No, man. And it's like, man, we've all heard of this, the analogy of the dude at the gym, right? Man, I'm here doing my bicep curls for the girls, and I look to the guy to the right of me, and he's 5 times my size. And I'm like, man, how hard must it be for him to work there, and how hard did he have to grind to work there? I can't wait to be that dude one day. And then you look to the guy to the left, and it was you 10 years ago. Yeah. And it was like, he's staring at you now, and you're staring somewhere else. There's never going to be this finish line. And so you have to be comfortable where you're at, and just always be focused on you, because you can't focus on the next person, man.
No, I appreciate you even sharing that, because it's hard. I feel like myself, everyone in the world gets caught up in it. And as you were talking about all these clinics you own, I was like, there's probably some kid in like Nicaragua looking at us who's like, you got lighting. Like, what are you guys complaining about? You have literally clean water. What are you guys complaining about? Talking about one practice versus 30. It's so hard to get out of that headspace of, looking at what the next guy's doing and being competitive and wanting more, when really we have more than we honestly deserve in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. And like, I'm going to be blunt with you guys. You know how much I took out this year? $96K. That's how much I took out. Okay. That's my salary. And I have over half of it left by the end of the year. I don't understand what people need all this money for. Like, everyone's in this race to be like, man, I got to get 400K a year. No, now I need 700, and you're never going to get as much as you want. And it's just this game of accumulation, and we all play it, including me, right? But like, what do you need it for, man? What is going to make you happy? That Porsche in your driveway, I can promise you, is not going to make you happy. It'll give you a moment of a dopamine hit, and that's it. That's it, right? And like that, my Apple Watch, man, that brings me happiness. That's cool. I get my text during the day. I'm like, man, this is wicked, right? But like, I don't understand what people need fancy shit for. My girlfriend Nicole, she's amazing, man. She taught me so much about life, and like, before I was interested in accumulating and like, man, I need this business here and I got to hustle, but I was so uneducated on how to even hustle, right? And she's just like, Nekky, stop spending your money on shit and just spend it on experiences, because at the end of the day, that's all you're going to remember. That is all you're going to remember. And she's so right, man. Like, man, camping on the sides of volcanoes in Indonesia, like, these are the things that, like, my memories are built of now. And she's so right, man. And I encourage everyone listening, man, spend your money on experiences, because you'll have that's what leads to a good life.
Yeah, I think do you believe that where you work and where you've grown up or whatnot, has that kind of affected that mindset? Like, you're in Lloydminster, Alberta, which is, I'm not not too aware of it, but it's a smaller city, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you think that has made a difference, maybe as compared to if you were working in Toronto?
Man, I see this. I tell Akil this all the time, man. Like, we go. I was in Toronto, and he's like, "Dude, I got to take you for a sauna." And I'm like, "Oh, what? Like, for real?" And he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna go to the sauna." We get in. It's like $60 to get in. You can only stay for 45 minutes. And there's these like beautiful girls just running around everywhere, and like everyone, there's just one common change room. I'm like, what is this hippie shit you're into? He takes the Other Ship, right? Have you guys heard of Other Ship? Other Ship. And it was dope. It was amazing, man. Like hot, like sauna. Then you go in these cold baths, and then like you're chatting with people that are like entrepreneurs, and they're all grinding and they're hustling, and they're at different parts of their career, but you're always trying to like keep up with them. You know what I mean? You're always, on one hand, you need, like, essentially, you are your environment, right? So you surround yourself with those people, that's who you become. And that's where I told him, I'm like, dude, I'm so jealous of you, because you do have this like ability to interact with so many different people and grow from everyone else's experiences. And like, you can network. In a small town, I don't have that. I feel like I'm on an island, but I also don't have to keep up with the guy that with like, 3 overdue Porsche payments, a house he can't afford, and therefore I have a house I can't afford, a watch I can't afford, a girlfriend I can't afford. You know what I mean? And so it's a blessing and a curse, because I don't have the same opportunities he does, but I also don't have the same, like, I don't have to keep up with the people around me, because no one cares.
I'll say, take it from me, from a guy who literally talks about money all day, works with people who have money all day, and sees just a ton of situations. I get to see behind the curtains of what someone really makes, how much is really left over, and have deep conversations about someone's life and how happy they are and how fulfilled they are. I really feel like the small city, the small town is the way to go, because what you just said, the three Porsche payments, I have clients who have $1 million watch collections. Are they happy? No. But because they have insurance on the watches, and then someone breaks in, like, it's this weird loop that we're all in. Not all, but a lot of people are in, especially in dentistry. It's this rat race of, I need to make more. Like, I have clients who pay themselves $400,000 a year and they have nothing left over. And so it's like, your $96,000 a year that you're paying yourself is some guy's car payments for the year. But I would argue, again, I don't know you personally, but you seem happier than a lot of these guys that I work with. And it's like, I really wish people could take a page out of that book of like, spend the time with your family, your kids, go travel the world, go see things. Because like, you're not going to feel or look any better in that Porsche. Like, it's just for maybe 20 minutes. And then like,
Totally. That's all it is. The quick dopamine hit, right? That's all we're after in life is these quick hits and these easy wins. And, nah, there's no such thing as a free lunch, man. There isn't. And you gotta, if you want to be happy, it's never going to come from a material good.
Actually,
But at the same time, you still grind. You're still a grinder.
Yeah,
You work.
grind.
You work. I know you work.
Yeah.
It's not, yeah. So I guess to go back quite a bit. You said at 6 months post graduation, you kind of bought into this practice.
Yeah.
How was that like? Like that's a huge.
It's funny because like, man, we both know dental school, man, teaches us nothing. Teaches absolutely nothing. I think I say this on every single podcast I've ever been on, including my own. Every single episode teaches you just enough not to kill someone, right? And then you get out and you think you know it all, and you don't know shit. You don't know anything, man. You're learning day to day. It's so hard, and to be able to, jump in and try to run a practice, you're all of a sudden meant to be the leader, but you have zero leadership skills. You don't even know how to talk to people, and yet you're supposed to like lead this staff, and the staff is 15 years older than you, and they're all looking at you and being like, you're the guy taking over, and yeah, you have this goofy smile and you try to fake your way through it. But like, man, there's so many lessons I had to learn, so many lessons, and all of them revolve around communication. I've learned more in the last year on communication than I have in the previous 14. And so if anyone's going to like get into practice ownership, learn how to talk to your staff, learn how to talk to patients. One of the people that have helped me so much with it is Bruce Freeman in Ontario there. He's a homie, man. He's such a nice guy, and he's taught me more about communication than anyone has so far. And honestly, that's led to some of my happiness is being able to talk with patients, being able to talk with my staff, and being able to, understand where my own insecurities come from, where I struggle and where I thrive, and shifting it more to the right.
Dr. Freeman's honestly the GOAT in that respect. I've been lucky enough to like have some coaching with him and stuff, and I've never met anyone who will tell you how it is.
Yeah, totally.
There's no one who will say it to your face. He'll tell you the stuff that you're thinking that you're like, I hope no one says this, and he'll just straight up say it to you. But then he'll follow it up with kindness and care. So it's like he is a blessing to like literally dentistry and anyone he talks about.
He fried a kill pretty good, man. It was pretty funny. He was just, the first time I met him, he's just telling you all about yourself without you even knowing, and it was awesome.
Well, he's fried me too. That's the beauty of him.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk a little bit about, with a lot of the work you do, obviously you've done a shit ton of CE. You've done so many reps. I don't remember how many wisdom teeth you said you pulled, but it was north of 10,000. And
oh, for sure.
I wanted to chat about what advice do you have for, like, let's say an associate who's done the CE, they have done the mentorship, but then they take on a case that's, let's say, just a little bit out of their scope of practice, and they need a leap of faith moment. Do you recommend that they ever have that leap of faith moment and try to move the needle, or should you always stick to stuff you're comfortable with when it comes to those larger cases, those more complex cases?
So it's such a hard question, man, because
I can chime in on that. I think just take a course with him and have you right behind him, so that when shit goes south, he'll take over.
I always tell people, and this is from my own personal experiences, you never lose sleep over cases you don't do. Think about that. You never lose sleep over cases you don't do. So my goal every day is to sleep. That's my goal. Okay.
But Nekky, be honest, did you? That probably wasn't your motto early on. I'm sure.
No, absolutely not. But now it is.
Yeah.
And I just got a text from a dude. I get a text every day from dentists across the world, and they're like, "Hey, I want to take on this case. Patient really wants me to do it. I don't feel comfortable." And I'm like, "Why? Why do you want to do the case? Like, what will this? Think about what's going to happen. You're going to make $400 from taking out this tooth. Think of the risk you're taking on. Think that this patient's going to be in pain for 2 weeks. You're looking to post this on Instagram. That's all you're trying to do. It's not about the money. It's about your own ego. And yet you're going to put the patient at risk. And so, I'm starting to be blunt with people, be like, hey, I have a patient with a numb lip. What do I do? And I'm like, why would you take on this case? I wouldn't take on this case. Like, you're only taking on this case as a first year grad. I've been doing this for 15 years and I wouldn't even touch that case. It's, you don't know what you don't know. And case selection is the only thing that's going to differentiate a first year dentist and a 15-year dentist. And so, having those mistakes early on, yeah, it was helpful, as a reminder that I know nothing. And to this day, dude, I referred 4 cases today. And so it's not like, I don't refer cases. It's that I feel like I'm smarter that I do. I refer risk. And my goal in educating dentists, I get flack from specialists, I get flack from other dentists. They're like, man, who the hell do you think you are trying to teach this course? And I'm like, I'm just trying to keep everyone's licenses, because they don't know what they don't know. And case selection is the most important thing I'm going to teach. And if you think I'm trying to teach people how to do crazy shit, you haven't taken my course. And if I can keep my dentist safe, and if I can keep my family safe around me, like my crew, then I've done my job. And that's all I'm trying to do.
How was that? Because that was a question I wanted to talk about. Anyone who does courses, typically it's a specialist, and they teach you just enough so that you can refer and then maybe do the stuff that they don't want to do.
Exactly.
But with you,
Yeah.
from what I've heard from clients and then from Ricky and other people in the industry, that you kind of like literally open the kimono, you tell everyone exactly how to do it so that they could do it on their own. But then you're saying you faced some flack from like specialists. How was that, having your own
Totally. All
tribe
the
come
time.
after
And
you?
dude, that's out of respect. They come at, man, I was at PDC. You're at PDC. Man, I had 5 lectures at PDC. It was nuts. It was crazy. And I still had an oral surgeon come up to me and he says, I'm going to send my staff to your lecture. And I'm like, that's dope. Thank you so much, man. It means a lot to me. He's like, oh, no. I'm going to get them to interject. And every single mistake you make, I'm going to make them correct you. And I'm like, man, those ladies, they're not going to be shutting up then, because I'm going to be making mistakes all day, because I don't claim to know it all. I don't, man. And I'm like, gave him a high five, and he was like, I don't think he was expecting it to go that way. He's trying to get a response out of you, right? He's trying to put you in his place.
Who does that?
Nekky, you come sit beside me. Man, who cares, dude? Who cares? Who cares? That doesn't matter. I had a prominent surgeon in Toronto reach out. Who are you doing teaching this? And I said, you know what, with all due respect, I teach case selection, because I'm trying to save you crap coming to your office that you're going to be shaking your head at. So wouldn't you rather, dentists refer you the case right off the bat? That's what I'm trying to teach. So really, I'm trying to help you out. Do you agree? And then it's just like, I don't think any GP should be doing wisdom teeth. And I said, well, my closest oral surgeon is 3.5 hours away from me with a 2-year wait list. So unless you want to come here and help me and my patients, I don't know what to tell you. Right. And it's just stuff like that. And they're not coming at it from like, they do have more schooling than I do. And I'll be the first one to admit that, but I'm also not doing the shit that they do. I'm not. And I know what I can do. I know my limits. So I don't push my limit. I don't refer to surgeons for my complications. If I can manage my own complication from the case, I'll do the case. But if I think that, the case is at high risk of a jaw fracture or paresthesia, or, any of the problems that any of the complications that we're up against, I don't do it, man. I want to sleep at night. I'd rather have that patient pay once for the procedure, not go through it over and over again. Right. So like, know your limits. And Ricky, to your question, you're like, have you pushed the envelope before? Yeah. And I got bit. It's not, those times when you're trying to push the envelope and you're trying to be like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. You're experimenting on someone's head. Do you understand that? Like, you're experimenting on someone's face, man. Do you like, if they knew that there's someone 100 times better than you to do it and you didn't refer it because you wanted to post that picture on Instagram, shame on you, man.
That's true. And it comes back to the comparing thing. Sometimes I look at colleagues that were similar age, similar experience, and they're doing some crazy stuff, and I'm like, damn, we've taken the same courses. Why am I not doing this? I've taken your advice for sure, and it's much better to sleep at night.
It is, man. Dude, I remember doing these ortho cases on 40-year-olds, I took a weekend course on ortho, and now we got these people in braces doing these rapid palatal expanders, pushing teeth outside the bone, causing massive recession. I didn't sleep for
You?
like 2 years, man.
You
And then
did
I'm
that?
like, I'm never doing ortho again.
Oh, that's hilarious. You could have
Dude,
been teaching ortho courses by now.
I could have, yeah. Oh God, I've been doing Invisalign, man. That's crazy, man. I, I honestly, man, you will never lose sleep over cases you don't do, and my goal is to not lose sleep, man.
Honestly, I feel like that can apply to everything. It's not just dentistry. There's like files that I worked on when I was like younger, and I was like, why did I take this file on? And it was literally, it was
Hmm.
ego, so I could do it. So I could say I did it. And if
That's
I'm being
right.
fully transparent, because I wanted the money, I needed the money. I grew up poor too. I was like,
Yeah,
I need the money. I got bills to pay. I got a mom to take care of. Like, that's exactly what it is. But when you can keep your living expenses low and take your ego out of it, you just happily refer it out.
totally,
it,
man.
it it needs
Ah,
to be said. And honestly, everything that you talk about, I'm like, I wish young associates would hear this, but I wanted to track back to, if you obviously have quite the clinic with all the associates that come in, at what point, like, should an associate start thinking of ownership? At what point does it make sense for an associate to actually buy a clinic? Because I've always said it's not a financial thing. It is a when you want autonomy over your staff, your procedures, and how you do things. But from someone who runs a very successful clinic, has had probably multiple associates come in and out, when is someone ready to start their clinic? What indicators are there?
when you, dude, it's for me. The answer is so simple. It's when you want to make dentistry your own. It's not about the money. You're right. Like, you're gonna take the loan. It's not like you're paying cash for it, but it's when you want to make the dentistry your own. That's when you want to open the clinic. When you want to when you want to be you, like when you can when you know your authentic self and you want to be able to the set the bar for what you want dentistry to be according to your philosophy. That's when you go on your own, man.
That's fair. And then you've done that with your little expansion as well. With all the
Yeah,
big
totally. It took me a
egos and
while
all.
to get there, but like, dude,
Yeah,
that's authentically me. Like
that
that,
is.
everything about that is me, and I'm so proud to show my space to 75-year-old ladies that look at the wall and they see these quotes and they're like, "That's a weird quote," and I'm like, "I'm a weird dude."
But that's how it should
Is
be
that
at
part
the end of the day. Because when you
is that
go,
part of your clinic? Sorry, Nick.
What?
Is that part of your actual clinic? Or
What?
is it like a separate space?
Oh,
The
my sedation
physical
center.
area.
It's
Yeah.
still connected, but it's like it has its separate door,
Oh,
like
okay.
separate reception area and everything. But it's still connected. Yeah.
I feel like that's
I
how
love
it
it.
should be though. Because when you go to a dentist, obviously, Nekky, you're a little bit different because you've said you've come from a town that has like what, like 35,000 people. It's very small. But
Yeah.
I feel like I wish more people did that in the GTA or the GVA, because there's like I say this a lot. The gym that I go to, there's 6 dentists, general dentists, in that one plaza. And I was like, none of you is
Yeah.
different from the other one, because when you walk in, it looks the exact same. But if you added your personality and your sprinkle into it, how much more like patient, like less churn would you have? How many more people would actually come to see you for you and not just for the quickest and cheapest treatment? It's like I really
Yeah.
wish more people did it the way you do it.
I
I
no,
think
I appreciate that, man. I just have I'm at that point where I'm just having a lot of fun with it too, because I know, I may not be. I'm going to lose my hair. I'm going to, think I'm cooler than I really am. I'm going to, start wearing Hokas to work instead of Jordans, right? Like I'm going to get old and I'm going to be irrelevant soon too, right? So, I'm having fun while I can, man.
Gurtej, to top onto that question, I think it's more of a like a scared mindset. People kind of do the cookie cutter thing because that kind of works, and you don't piss anyone off. You don't really attract anyone special, but you don't piss anyone off. So you got big plaster on your wall. You're not People aren't walking in thinking, this is not the place for me. Whereas other people will look at it and be like, hey, this is the place for me. So I think it's kind of like the mindset that most dentists have is that they don't want to fail. Um, they'd rather kind of go the cookie cutter way essentially.
Totally, man. And that's like, that falls into that scarcity mindset. And don't get me wrong, man. I have to challenge myself every day thinking like, Nekky, you can't think this way. It's an abundance concept. Like you can't think closed. It's an open world. You know what I mean? And by no means do I say I'm the best dentist out there. Like, all I can say is I'm having fun. That's honestly all I can say. When I go to work, I'm pumped. Like, I'm just pumped. My office is nicer than my house. I walk in and my assistants already have Drake playing. Like, I'll have an old lady in the chair and there's F-bombs going off. And I'm like, sorry, but this is awesome. It's such a good track, right? And they look at you and they're like, not amused at all. But then they're still like, they're like, oh, my dentist is, a child. But they don't care, man. Like, it's we have fun.
Were,
Yeah.
were you always like that though? Or is that something that's kind of developed? Because sometimes I have days where, I'm super excited, and some days where I kind of show up and, I'm not having as much fun. It's kind of just like work. Have you
Totally.
always,
When you and if you think about those days, and when I thought hard about those days, and this is what Bruce helped me with. He was like, when do you feel like when you're at your worst? And for me, it's when I feel defensive. And like, for instance, someone come in, they'd be like, yeah, you're filling, I trap food in there. It's because you did that because you were in a hurry. And it's just like attack, attack, attack. And really what they're saying is, I'm just tired of food getting stuck between my teeth, but they don't know how to express themselves because they may not be good at communicating either, right? And we take it as a personal attack against my profession, against my ability to do something I've trained so hard for and I've done day in, day out, and it's attack against your personal and moral character. And how dare you? And that's when you feel like shit. You say something stupid, that patient gets mad at you, and it's game over from there. You know what I mean? When really you have to understand, like, why is that patient upset? You know what I mean? Is it because of money? Is it because of, crappy filling? All you have to do is like bust out the contact and make it bigger. It's going to take you 20 minutes. And yet, you let that patient win, and you let your head just lose, and that eats away at you for the rest of the week, man. And that's when you hate dentistry, man. It's like when shit doesn't work and you do have an open contact or whatever. And it's just like, put it in perspective. And if I don't have those defensive moments anymore, my day is great. So I just don't let patients do that to me anymore, man.
So to hop on that, actually, how do you go about that? I've
You
recently had
agree
a
with them.
that's
You 100% agree with them. You say, oh my God. And Bruce is so good at this. He's like, I can't believe after every meal you think of me. I feel horrible. You're totally right. Why are you even here right now? I'm surprised you even trust me to fix this for you. I'm shocked that you even were able to walk in this door today and not swear at me and tell every single patient, leave me 10 bad Google reviews and tell your friends how horrible I am. And you take every single word out of their mouth that they could ever think of, and they're left saying, well, it's not that bad. Hold up. It's not that bad. Okay, well, let me address it for you. Let me take care of it for you. There's no fee or anything today. I'm so blessed, and I'm so grateful that you even want to give me that second chance to do it. And then you take a picture of it and you're like, man, your tooth is 5 millimeters away from the tooth beside it. I can fix it, but I got to do this. But you know what? Let me take care of it for you. That's what people want, man.
yeah.
People want
But
after.
there's those patients that the few patients that just always are bound to ruin a day. What do you
Yeah,
do with those? How have you dealt with those?
dude, you
Kick
do
them
it the
out?
exact same. No, fuck that, man. No,
No?
you just, I used to walk in and I used to like try to get the upper hand because it was my ego. And it was like, I need to be in charge of this situation. And the patient feels that they need to be in charge of this situation. And those are the patients that ruin your day, man. It's the people that want to be in charge. If you think about it, man, those patients are telling you what to do. Just agree with it and take all their words out of their mouth. Don't let them feel like you need to be in charge, because you don't. That's your ego telling you that, man. I don't know, man. That's how I approach it. I have patients
I
that
like it.
grind my gears so hard and they
Yeah.
yell at me, and I'm just like, you're right. And honestly, do I think about it 5 minutes later? No. But if I had said something, man, some guy was like, man, what school did you go to? What country did you come from? And what school did you go to? And I remember being like, man, take your bullshit racist out of here, and I don't give a shit about you. And I said that to him. And I felt this big for like 2 weeks after that. Had I just been like, you know what, you're totally right. You know what, let me see how I can fix this for you. It must be so frustrating for you to go through this. And you label it. And then it just takes all the animosity out of it right away. And that's the mature thing to do, man. And that's where I've been trying to grow these last couple of years.
I like that.
I wanted to That's fire. Like honestly, it is. It takes so much to not stoop to that level, especially when you're like, man,
It
like
does.
I'm literally here to help you. And yes, humans
Yeah.
we make mistakes, or maybe there wasn't even a mistake on your part. Half the time, people aren't following their actual aftercare and treatment plan. So it's like, well, this isn't even my problem. But instead of harping on that, I wanted to talk a little bit about all the philanthropy that you do. Based on everything that I've heard and obviously studied on the back end and listening to podcasts, you have this like life of service. It's like this theme that like everything you do is literally for
Yeah,
the
man.
good of others, which I love. But I want to know, how was that instilled in you? Was that from a young man? Was that dad helping you out? Was that to an extent survivor's guilt because of how you grew up and where things are at for you now? Like, where does that come from? This desire and honestly need to give back, which I love, but where does that come from?
It's the only thing that makes you happy, man. Think about it. When you can give something to someone without the ability for them to pay you back, or without the need for them to pay you back, the lack of a transaction, you know what I mean? That's when you're at your happiest. Imagine, you gave financial advice to a family just coming out to Canada, and you help them open up an RESP for their kid, and teach them how to invest properly, and teach them how to do it, and don't charge them a dime. Dude, that brings you more satisfaction. It brings you more utility than anything you're going to do. It'll bring you more utility and gratification for your job than the $1 million bonus you'll land for doing X amount of whatever. You know what I mean? Those are the things that you remember, man. Like people are like, oh man, you do so much. You go to Central America, you do all this dental work. And I'm like, man, I don't do it for them. I do it for me. Those are the days that fill my cup. It's like, I remember every year I'm like, oh man, I'm tired. I don't want to go to Nicaragua, or like, I just need a week off. I want to go to Mexico. Man, I've never been to Mexico. I would love to go to Mexico and just sit on a beach. I've never been in all inclusive. That would be so amazing, man. And yet, like, I get there and I'm like, oh, this fills my cup. It's like you remember what it's all about. And that it just, like, the only way to win in life is to live a life of service. And if you can serve the people around you, whether it's your staff or whether it's your patients, or whether it's trying to bring fresh water to a community in Nicaragua, or trying to pull 100 teeth in a village of people that are with swollen faces, and kids that haven't been to the dentist before, like, that shit fills your cup, man. Those are the things that you remember. It's not however many crowns or CERECs you do, or how many wisdom teeth you pull. I don't know how many wisdom teeth I pulled, because they all blend together. But I can tell you exactly what communities I have water wells in,
Mm.
and I don't go visit them. You know what I mean? Like, those are the things that bring you happiness, is knowing that you're able to make a difference, and you're able to lead a life of service. Because if I can help you out, and if I can help Ricky out, and just hearing I've helped Ricky, man, you don't think I'm walking 2 inches taller right now? That's the shit that makes me happy.
How do you balance all of this philanthropy with running your clinic? Because obviously you have to take time out to go to Central America. Is that just the fact of having really great partners who carry that load while you're
No,
gone?
you're going to take vacation anyway. So what's the difference?
I don't know.
You're not going to work every single day. You're going to go on vacation. You're going to go, you and your family are going to Hawaii. Well, don't go to Hawaii. Go to Guatemala. I don't think it takes any time at all. And you work with like charities, and you work with organizations. And let's be honest, like, Ricky and I were dentists. Ricky, do you know the first thing about installing a water well in Central America?
Zero.
You know how much I know? Zero. But you work with people that do, right? And I understand that. I think it's hilarious. My girlfriend, Nicole, she says this all the time. She's like, I think the stupidest thing a Canadian can do, a Canadian dentist can do, is go to Africa with, one of these house building projects, or what's the main one? Uh, Whatever. They build houses. There's a million of them, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to go there and build a house, and you're going to give yourself a pat on the back. And the only reason you're there is because you're North American and you have money, and yet you're building a house for someone when you don't even know how to build a house. And you wouldn't build a house in Canada, but all of a sudden, because you're from North America, you're qualified to do it in Africa. And it's just like shit like that's just dumb. It's like, I can best be served by fundraising for water projects in Central America, and I can rally my community to do that. And that's how I'm going to make the difference. But if I can go there after the water project has been installed and we can go fix their teeth, well, that's when I can shine. And that's what we're going to do. So, it doesn't take long to do that. If you say you don't have time to go to, Nicaragua or Guatemala or Peru or anything for a week, well, man, I know you're taking 6 weeks off this year to do something, and just make one of those weeks like a trip for you, not to help, but it's a trip for you, because that's when you're going to be able to reconnect with yourself.
That's so funny because this was back in undergrad. I went on one of those trips where, we were praised for going, and I don't think I've ever told anyone this. We built a house. Honestly,
Sorry, I feel
no,
like
no,
that's
no,
one.
no, no. It's funny that you mentioned that because I've always kind of thought about this. I was never kind of satisfied at what I did there. I felt like it was completely for me, and they didn't even let us build because had no idea what we were doing. They would take the stuff from us and do it themselves. So it was counterproductive, if anything.
Yeah.
But it was one of those trips. I mean, there's still good that comes out of it, I guess. It's the thought, and I don't know. But I think the way that you've done it is great. And I think there's other ways that you can do it. Like we have such a tremendous opportunity with our skills to, do it locally. You don't have to go halfway
No,
across the world as well.
absolutely. Man, people give me a hard time for that all the time. They're like, man, you don't help people in your own community. And I'm like, well, you don't know I'm not helping people in my own community, because I do all the time, right? It's just I'm not public about it. But you're totally right, though, man. It's you have to think. You're like, well, is my money better spent donating it? Like, if after you pay for a flight and accommodation and ground costs and all that shit, and say it costs you $3,500 to go to Africa, is your money better spent donating that $3,500 to an African charity? Probably, because they know how to build a house for much less than you do, and they don't need you building their house for them, right? So, not to discourage anyone from doing, because I think it is important, Ricky, like you said, like it builds awareness, and I think awareness is the first step in trying to get involved. So, I think everyone should do it.
Yeah.
On the note of building awareness, with these projects for the wells, are you still actively fundraising, and how much does it cost to actually build a well? Like, how much do you have to fundraise for us to put another well in another part of the world that needs it?
Yeah, so I go through one of the charities. Like I'm the dental lead for this charity out of Edmonton called Change for Children, and they're involved in, and they do all the water well stuff. And so like we fundraise for them. I've fundraised several hundred thousands of dollars for them, and they work with local partners in a very sustainable manner to deliver fresh water to a lot of these communities. It ranges, sometimes it's about like 10 grand. US. In some communities, like you have to drill through volcanic rock, because Nicaragua is the land of water and volcanoes. And so, sometimes it's much more than that, but you don't have to drill a well. You can just donate, and it's a charity close to my heart. I think they do amazing work, but there's lots of charities around the world that are trying to deliver fresh water, and if water isn't your thing, it's health, or building toilets in a community, and that's so important too, or medicine. There's just find ways to help out and find ways to reach out, and as Nicole says, I don't want to steal her quote because it's so amazing, is we all have the ability to change someone's today, someone's tomorrow, and someone's forever. And so what's stopping you?
Awesome, love that. Nekky, let's talk about a little bit. We'll shift it another way, I guess. Talk about Third Molars Online, how that came about. So, Nekky's got this awesome course that you can take online. I take it. I listen to your voice every time the night before I go into a wisdom tooth surgery. Tell us more about it, how that came about.
It's hard because it came like I've always had thoughts about it, and then before COVID, I remember doing these extraction lectures, and everyone would be like, man, can you teach us this? Can you teach us that? And you'd only do like, 2-hour lectures, and you're like, well, how do I do that? And am I really the one to teach that? You know what I mean? And so like, there's a lot of imposter syndrome there too, right? Like, who am I? I just know how to take out teeth. That doesn't make me the one to teach it. And, COVID hit, and then we were like, well, now what the hell am I going to do with my time, right? But do you remember those dentistry fast track lectures?
Was it the
Do you
ones
remember
with
those?
Dentistry Academy?
Yeah, the dentistry
Yeah,
fast track, and like everyone met on YouTube. And like as soon as pandemic, I'm like watching Trudeau on one TV, and I'm watching dentistry fast track lectures on the other TV, and thinking, what are we going to do with our lives? And from there, I was like, dude, the only way I can impact the people around me now is to teach them how to take out teeth. And, my goal was I'm going to donate a huge chunk of that right back into, back to Change for Children and to these water projects. And so it's been really cool that, you're able to empower the people around you, donate a ton of money. Like we donate to, the women's shelter in my community. We donate to the library, donate to Change for Children. We do dentistry around the world. Like it's really allowed us to do some cool stuff. And, it kind of tick both the boxes that way. I'm able to help the people around me and do amazing stuff. And nothing makes me happier, like I told you, than being the hype man for my fam, man. Like it's like to see the texts I get every day. It's just like, man, thank you. I wouldn't have been able to do this without you. It just, man, that brings me joy. I've never met these people before, but like to get texts and like, to give people encouragement and let them know, like, you shouldn't take on that case. And some people like, you're like, you can do this. Like, just you can do it. Like this is the same case that, we all start with. And it's been amazing, man. It's been so cool for me.
Yeah. What's cool about that is as well is that, you put this extensive online module, lecture series, all that on, and it's kind of something that keeps giving back. Like you did it once, but it kind of keeps going. It's not like a lecture where you do live. People that hear it get the stuff out of it. Whereas this, people can sign up today and you'd be getting the same information that you had from before, which is awesome. So
Yeah, and it's like and like it's just I had to do everything myself. So like I learned how to, I had to make a studio. So this is my studio. I learned how to like, have a proper camera and have mics and learn to edit, and like it was so cool. Like it was like my hobby now, and like I've made other courses that I haven't released because it's just I can't make one as good as that. And I would sit here and like, man, at 3 a.m. I'm writing scripts, and at 7 a.m. I'm filming, and like I look at my eyes on camera and like they're like half open, half closed, and you're just like, no, I can't use that. And it's hard for me because I'm like, I just want it to be perfect and I just want it to be awesome. And no, it's been a blessing to meet people around the world. And man, I'll be sitting in an airport in Toronto, and I'm like literally like, dude, I don't wear fancy clothes. I look like a bum all the time, right? And they're like, hey, are you Nekky? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, dude, I'm part of your third molars online. And they're like, we're looking at cases, and it's just so cool. Like it's just awesome. And especially when you go to dental conferences, like people spot you, and it's wicked. It's fun.
you're
Man.
spottable as well.
Yeah,
It doesn't help I'm too tall, right?
you can see you from pretty far away. I was at PDC. I literally saw Nekky from across the convention center. But
Yeah, man, that was
Nekky, I
wicked.
know your dad's in town. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I did have one final question before we sort of hop off.
Yeah, anytime,
Um,
man.
what's
This is
next?
awesome, man. I love your guys' pod. It's wicked, man.
Appreciate it, man.
I love you, man.
What's next for you? I guess as Dr. Jamal, like professionally, and then what's next personally? What is it that in your personal life that you want to do more of?
Personal life, I'm tired of being. Ever since I worked at Pizza Hut, I was always the chubby kid, man. And so I made a promise this year. Like I just turned 40. That was really hard for me, like to turn 40. I never like in my head I've been 35 for the last 10 years. You know what I mean? And so to turn 40 this year was tough. I signed up for a bunch of like crazy trail ultra marathons. So I've been training pretty hard. I want to get in the best shape of my life personally. Um, Professionally is Dr. Nekky Jamal. I've actually given myself the latitude of saying no a lot more often. So like I probably say no to 9 out of 10 conferences now, and I only do the conferences I want to do, and I love it because it's like I don't have to grind. Like I don't want to grind. Like for what? And so I'll grind on the things that mean something to me, but like traveling to Atlanta to give a lecture does not do it for me. And I've come home tired and I got to see my patients. So like, I'm doing the things that I want to do, and having the ability to say no and being able to prioritize what I want to is important. Like that for me has been like a saving grace, to give myself the opportunity to say no. But also like, man, I love going to work and serving my patients, man. Like this morning, like I know you guys all see the same thing, and like to see nervous patients, and man, nothing makes me happier than seeing crying patients, like literally bawling, scared of life. And they just give you a hug at the end. And like, it's just, for me, that fills my cup, man. And just treating people with respect, and I'll take the small little W's every day, because at the end of the day, there's nothing more important in life than being able to smash a Tuesday. You know what I mean? Like, who said that? Joel Ferris or whatever. Dude, that should be everyone's goal in life. If you can smash a Tuesday, you're living a good life, right? Yeah. And so that's the overall goal, man, is like to treat every day like I'm getting the win.
I love that.
Love it.
I think that's the perfect place to end it, man. I appreciate you, Nekky. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me on. That honestly, it means a lot that people want to hear me babble. So this is fun.
No, man, you got lots of insight. I've always looked up to you. Continue to look up to you, man. Keep doing what you're doing. You're awesome part of this community. You tell it how it is, and it's refreshing, which is amazing.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you, brother.
You still have my scrub cap?
And there you have it, episode 7 of the Dental Journeys podcast. Now, if you'd like to connect with Dr. Jamal, I've included his social media links, his course, and his podcast in the show notes below. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Dental Journeys podcast, proudly sponsored by Whitecoat Financial. Join us next time as we continue to explore the journeys, strategies, and successes of dental professionals across Canada.